I was referred to the program by a very good friend of mine who has had all kinds of issues. He's got 5 stents in his chest, and he had his first heart attack when he was 46 years old. Never a terribly out of shape guy, but both of us carried more weight than we should have. Jobs do that to you. And he had been through a variety of different things. Obviously had he was scared to death when he had his initial heart attack, and had lost a bunch of weight. And like all of us, he put it back on again. And so he found the program, and he was referred here by his cardiologist, who is a good friend of both of ours, who actually needs to be part of the program, and George is still not part of the program. And it worked really well for him. Not only did it work well from a speed perspective, where he changed his life very quickly, and by the way, I apologize, I'm still sweating because I was working out. If any of you who were walking through there, I was getting beat up pretty good in there. So I showered, but I'm still sweating. But so he went through the program, was probably about 3 or 4 weeks out of it, and finally just beat me up into joining the program. So for me, throughout my life, it's just been a series of things where I've never been terribly out of shape, but I was out of balance. And I've never been a dieter, don't believe in dieting. Always been a big exercise guy, and when I was younger, that seemed to work great. So I could, I'd exercise, and if I was putting on a little weight, I'd exercise a little harder. I wouldn't change the way I was eating, and certainly wouldn't change the way I was drinking wine. But I would, on a regular basis, kind of try and get my life back in order. And invariably, as you get older, that doesn't work quite as well. I've also been a guy who's been a chiropractic patient for 15 years. So, I come to this believing in chiropractic and believing in that, that little piece of preventive medicine to try and help balance yourself. Unfortunately, I am your worst nightmare because invariably I talk about it as being preventive, but then I only show up when I really am in pain. So, it's always good. I can tell you for Dr. Dane, trying to adjust me is not always the easiest thing in the world, especially my pelvis. So when I get tight, it's a hard thing. So for me, the program, watching Tom go through it and then coming in and talking to Dr. Denise about the program, it gave me the one thing that I think I was always missing, and that is the framework to actually do this. I always, tended to eat right, was never a terrible eater. Tended to work out, tended to do chiropractic, never meditated, and I shouldn't say this, but still really don't very much. But I never actually put it all together because I never really had a framework. So for me, eating, did I do Atkins at some point in my life? Absolutely, right? Did I try and do the low-fat thing? Sure, I did. But never really had the balance of understanding why I ate the way I eat now. And so when you think about what's happened in the program, I started in the second week in October. So here we are towards the end of January. I've lost over 30 pounds, been out of the program through the holidays, which is kind of an important thing, right? So, I came out of the 8 weeks in the beginning of December, and here I am 6 weeks later, and I've lost another 7 or 8 pounds. So, the reality is that I cheated like crazy through the holidays, right? There were plenty of days where I went back to eating the way I used to. I can guarantee you, and Steve and I have talked about this because he deals with the same thing, is, did I drink more than I should have through the holidays? Absolutely. So to me, the big things I've got to balance in my life are I like wine, and I drink wine probably way too much, and just understanding how to eat. But what's great about the program and the framework that this program gives me is that if I'm bad one night for dinner, as long as I go back to eating the right way the following day, because working out is never really an issue for me, if I go back to eating the right way, then by the end of that day, I'm kind of back in balance again. And that to me is just an amazing thing, because I've never been able to do that. So for me, it's not only that I've now been referred into the program by one friend who's also referred other people in. For you as business people, I can tell you that I've already referred in 4 patients that are all doing the program right now. And it's one of those things, I am not that person, right? So we all have friends in our lives that do like multi-level marketing, right? Whether it be, you guys are too young, most of you, for Pampered Chef type stuff, or it was KM was the juice of the nectar of the gods, and acai juice, and then you got all this stuff, Arbonne for cosmetics, and Mary Kay is the ultimate, right? You get all this stuff, right? So I've been like that anti-guy, right? I've had people pitch me on that stuff since I was really young, and I've always hated it. Now some of the stuff I've used, but I've never been the distributor. because I never wanted to actually go and tell people what they should do with their lives. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to about doing this with my life. And what's happened to me is, so my golfing buddies, the guys that I play golf with all the time, are, invariably, they will all do this program. One of the guys is doing it now with his wife, and the others will follow because they see how my life has changed. And it's not necessarily guys that all need to lose weight. I'm sure Dr. Dane will tell you the story. Can I just tell a story about the one when you told me about at lunch? This is one of those things. So I have a daughter who's a freshman in college, and she's put on more weight than she should have her freshman year, and she's trying to battle through all that stuff, pledging a sorority and all those things. So of course I've been coached my entire life. I'm not allowed to talk to her about her weight, right? Dads can't talk to their daughters about their weight. Just can't do that. It's taboo. I'm not allowed to do that. So I've talked to her about her fitness and trying to do the right things and all that good stuff. Dr. Dane and I had lunch right before the holidays, and he told me a story about one patient, and of course, unnamed patient. He had a woman who went through the program, changed her life. She did really well. She had a 24-year-old daughter who was relatively fit, came in and said she wanted to do the program. And Dr. Dane met with her, and she was really not out of shape from the outside. And, yeah, the story he related to me was he looked at her and said, I don't know why you're in this program, right? But hey, well, let's do the blood work and we'll figure out whether you're the right candidate for the program. Came back and her levels were all over the place. So internally, she was a mess, right? So on the outside, she may not have looked that bad, may not have been in horrible shape, but on the inside, she was just a mess. She did the program and came back out, and she was on an antidepressant, she's off the antidepressants. She's got her insulin level back where it's supposed to be. So the point of relating that story, and he would have done a much better job telling you that story than I do, but the reality is, and this is what I believe, and this is what I can tell you, my wife who really went through this program with me without being part of the program, our lives are different, and we're more balanced, we're sleeping better, we're eating better, we feel better about everything in our lives, and it creates this framework that you can always go back to. And it provides you, and so now let me take it off of me for a second and talk more to you as business people. What I do is I run a business. And so when I think about this, and Dr. Dane and I have talked a lot about this in the context of what you people are in here to think about and evaluate whether you're interested in doing a program. I told you I've been a chiropractic patient for 15 years. And I've had a variety of chiropractors. Now, truth be told, the chiropractor that's our family chiropractor has been our family chiropractor for 12 years, and it's not this practice. So that tells you kind of that I've come here for this program because it's really important to me. And the chiropractor that I use as our chiropractor for the family is very supportive of us going through this program, very supportive of me being here. But the challenge he has is that he kills himself every day seeing patients, right? And he, is incredibly fit because he has to be, because he's got to move bodies like mine every single day. And he's killing himself just to keep up with his chiropractic practice. What this gives you is a way to not only treat people, do the things that, the one thing that I will tell you that is amazing to me about chiropractic, and I think it's very different than traditional medicine, is that I actually think chiropractors, on my experience, care more deeply about their patients' physical well-being or emotional well-being or kind of their whole body well-being than doctors do. Doctors are so conditioned to just treating what's wrong with you that they don't necessarily care. Care is the wrong word. They aren't as focused on your overall well-being. So what I think this program does for you as business people is creates a platform for you to actually carry it to that next step, right? Every chiropractic office I've been in for the 15 years I've been in chiropractic care, they've got the signs on the wall that talk about treating your whole body and this is and dis-ease, right? And all the things you guys buy, and it's all that cool stuff, right? But this is the first thing that actually clicked with me and my family to say, this is more than just come in and get adjusted before you feel bad, right? And you guys all have supplements in your office, but most people don't push the supplements because there's no framework to push the supplements. Oh, you should take fish oil. Great, I should take fish oil. Why should I buy it from you instead of buying it from BJ's wholesale because it's cheaper at BJ's, right? This framework gives you a way to stay sticky with patients and actually create more long-term relationships, right? So I've been with my chiropractor for 12 years. The only time I see him, we know each other at this point, right? I'd see him on the street and we'd give each other a hug, but it's only because it's 12 years. It's not because I go to see him once a month, once every couple of weeks to get ahead of being adjusted like I am now. Actually, I'm doing that better now since I've been through the program because I realized I should. So then let me kind of go fast forward to after the program. So for me, after the 8 weeks, it's really, it's given me a way to know I'm going to be in balance. And this framework is really the key. And creating that sticky relationships with your patients and making it so they have a reason to come back and want to come back and want to be part of your practice long term, I think is really valuable. So, did I cover everything you wanted?
And one thing, I'll get closer to you so that people can hear me. But
yeah, let's hug because
I just actually like to be closer to him. And I kind of got jealous when you said you hug your chiropractor because I don't ever remember you hugging me, but that's okay.
I hugged Jeff. You bought me that one beer.
Oh, okay. But
did I say beer?
My one thought as you were going through this was, how many people like Rick are in your community whom you've never met and whom you may never meet. I not only feel blessed that Rick came through and did our program, but Rick is really brilliant in his area of expertise, so I was actually able to go out to lunch with him and learn a lot of things that I didn't know, and I would have never met Rick had it not been for the program. Does that make sense to you guys? And there's people in your community who will never step foot in your office because you haven't attracted them based on something that they really want and they really need. You're trying to attract them based on something you really want them to have, but until you can address what they really want to have, which Rick talked about, they'll never come into your practice. So what I'd like to do is, and just in finishing up, I want to thank you, is if I were you and I had this opportunity, I'd really want to pick Rick's brain, right, about what it is that you want to ask him about. How do you position this in your practice so that you can attract patients like Rick? So I know Rick actually covered a lot, so there may not be a lot of questions, but do you have any questions for Rick?
I do. Rick, since starting the program, you clearly had a goal.
I didn't actually. That's actually a great point. You can finish your question, but I didn't have a goal.
Okay.
Which is part of my problem.
Okay. Because then I would imagine that maybe that goal evolved after actually doing that?
Yeah, it's actually a great question. So, Dr. Denise wanted me to have a goal. Every time I see Dr. Dane, Steve would yell at me about what's your goal. And I had to write my list of the 10 goals, and I actually never went back and revisited them, which I actually will do today. But my problem was I just had this amorphous thing I had to get back in shape. I had to kind of get my life back in order, and just not just physically, but just get my whole life back in order. And the reason I say that it's a problem, not only I'm driven, so for me it wasn't as big a deal. Most of the patients you'll see you need to have very specific goals for, right? So I will say that up front. And Tom, the person who got me in the program, he's got a goal every week, right? I mean, it's like, so he's a runner, right? So he runs on his treadmill. He's not really a runner, he's a jogger. But so he runs on his treadmill, and like every day we work out together once a week, and we'll come here to work out together. And he'll come in and we'll be warming up on the treadmill together, and I'll say, I got to 3.72 miles this week in 30 minutes. I got to 3.74 miles. So he's always got these he's competing with himself with these little goals. So for me, I never really had that specific goal. It was to get back in shape. And one of the challenges for me is the goal that I have is back to being my 19-year-old, unbelievably fit, 185-pound self, which is somewhat unrealistic, but that's what I have in